Do it again. Damn it, Matt. Do it again.
One more. You guys are ridiculous. Okay, stop.
Get the script. I think you have it.
Shh.
Welcome back to Queen 5 News. Richard Little here with today's headlines. Our first story today, it is confirmed that you can actually see Russia from Sarah Palin's house.
Hey, keep it down!
Breaking news, fireworks were ignited in Chinatown, Seattle today in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the Republic of China. We are now going to go to Bingham Binkster on the scene.
Well, thanks, Dick. Today marks the 100th anniversary of the Qing Dynasty ending. Over 300 years of rule. Now, that is the beginning of the People's Republic of China. And now, the China we know it of today. Now I have Huang Sheng and Chao Ming to talk about it.
Well, it all began when... Mao Zedong was born December 26, 1893, in Hunan Province, in a peasant farm village. He was born in a courtyard house in one of these farm villages called Shaoshan, about 30 miles south and slightly west of Changsha. Growing up, Mao spent months on end living with his maternal grandparents. His mother was always working long days because his father was a soldier in the provincial army. Instead of making Mao grow up neglected, she sent him to his grandparents, and there he learned to have a gentle and positive outlook on life. Mao's mother had 7 children, but unfortunately 4 of them died, and only Mao and 2 siblings lived. Mao grew up in a family that stressed education. Mao's father demanded that Mao got an education, and in a way, he was the one that formed Mao's life. Regarding religion, Mao was caught in between his mother's devout faith to Buddhism and his father's skepticism. In 1907, Mao's father arranged for Mao to marry into a wealthy family in another county. The Lius were a family of scholars, and both families were related. Mao's grandfather's sister was part of the Liu family, and in this way, the families were comfortable to adjoin their children. Mao was 14 and his wife was 18, and they were married for 3 years until she died at 21. The Qing dynasty, which had ruled China with a firm hand for 250 years, was falling apart, no longer understanding either how to control its own power or establish a strong navy. For over 30 years, the Qing rulers had been trying to reorganize their land and naval forces and to equip them with modern Western weapons. But in 1894, the new navy, which they were proud of, was overpowered by the Japanese. Mao decided to leave the farm and go to neighboring counties in search for schools. He felt that an education is the only thing that will help his future. Previously only being taught the basics, the new school taught natural sciences as well, and they emphasized history. Mao was considered an outsider and was not treated with much respect, as most other kids were. It was 1911 when Mao, noticing the events occurring during this time and throughout his life, figured that it was time for a change. His research and study of history made him independent in his own opinions, and he decided to stress that the Qing dynasty was to be brought down. As a sign, he cut off his long hair, also known as his queue. Most were not sure if they wanted to revolt. Of course, there were penalties for such actions. Anyone who revolted against the government was subject to death. At this point in time, Mao was completely ensconced in Sun Yat-sen's ideology. Sun Yat-sen was the leader of the revolts against the Qing Empire, and he was an inspiration to Mao. This marked the beginning of Mao's communist journey.
I remember back in high school when the Chinese kids copied off me. Woo! Mao was brought up as a peasant boy, his whole family along with him. His education and family led the young boy to creating a new life for himself, a life in the education of Marxist ideology. The education he received mainly strengthened him as a citizen, taught him the basics needed to survive in life. Arithmetic and history were important parts in his education, but interestingly enough, Mao wasn't concerned with history, but the future. His family was always there to help him through tough times. His father helped him get a good education by helping him get through it. His mother, a loving and caring person, supplied him with the love and support every child needs. Ultimately, along with further research in Marxism, it was the events that were going on that pushed Mao to a point of conversion. The Qing dynasty was in trouble. The Qing dynasty, which had ruled China with a firm hand for 250 years, was falling apart, no longer understanding either how to exercise its own power or how to chart the country's course into the future. For over 30 years, the Qing rulers had been trying to reorganize their land and naval forces, and to equip them with modern Western weapons. But in 1894, Japan destroyed the new Chinese naval force. When Mao grew up to an appropriate age, 17, he became fully enthralled in the ideas of Marxism and communism. His final choices made him convert from his childhood ideas to his new thoughts and opinions. The nationalistic ideas that were born in him now deteriorated and converted his open mind to communistic ideals. And now for sports with Gaylord.
Thanks, Dick. It seems that many of our swimmers have been training since the Beijing Olympics in 2008. One swimmer, Michael Phelps, smoked the competition in 2008, winning 8 gold medals. However, this year, lots of competition coming from China in the 1500 meter swim, winning a world record yesterday. And now for the women's side of...
Gay? Are you there? I think we lost you.
Swimming? Did you say swimming? Interesting fact, did you know that Mao Zedong loved to swim?
Shanghai, China, July of 1921. The Communist Party of China was formed. Arising out of Shanghai, the CPC became the forefront of the Chinese working class and the core of socialist ideals in China. The Communist Party of China represented many values of the Chinese people, as it offered a solution to the instability of the Chinese political system. It advertised as being a party for the people, a theme that resonated with the people due to the regular power struggles and the battles occurring at the time. It soon gained vast popularity among the working people of China. With rising popularity of the CPC, the KMT, or the Chinese National Party, began a purging of the communists in 1927. The KMT leader Chiang Kai-shek launched the anti-communist purge. Despite the conflicts between these two groups, they were united in response to the Second Sino-Japanese War, China's war with Japan, in 1937. This war left China weakened and further disjointedness between these two parties, and soon broke out in the Chinese Civil War after the end of World War II in 1945. By the end of the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Communist Party of China essentially dominated the politics and military of China. President Harry S. Truman realized this and said,
"It was perfectly clear to us that if we told the Japanese to lay down their arms immediately and march to the seaboard, the entire country would be taken over by the communists. We therefore had to take the unusual step of using the enemy as a garrison until we could airlift Chinese national troops to South China and send Marines to guard the seaports."
President Truman and the U.S. supported the Chinese Nationalist Party and sought to protect the weak nationalists in China. The KMT received a total of $4.4 billion of military support from the US. However, the Communist Party, after close to 5 years of fighting, won the war and gained dominance over China. The Nationalists, after their defeat, retreated to southern island of Taiwan, where they remain today. The weakening of the Communist Party in China had opened a void for leadership in the centralization of the CPC, and that is where Mao Zedong rose to the occasion, becoming the party's first general secretary or chairman. Chairman Mao and the Communist Party went on to influence China severely through acts such as the Great Leap Forward or the Cultural Revolution, all of which helped shape China as we know it today. The Communist Party of China and Chairman Mao has since its victory over the Nationalists become the world's greatest political party, with over 80 million members. It is currently the only functioning political party in China today. In 1958, during the governing of the Communist Party, they launched the Great Leap Forward. This event was a mobilization of labor, especially in agriculture and in industrial production. The result of the Great Leap Forward was supposed to be very good, but was very devastating. Instead of having high amount of output in agriculture, they were faced with a poor harvest. This harvest resulted in famine and millions of Chinese that had died because of this. Though the Chinese government had tried to relaunch their country by having high outputs of agriculture and industrial production, they failed to do so, and had further impacted greatly for the worse. Soon after, in 1966, the Communist Party tried to relaunch the Cultural Revolution. This time, the consequences was even more devastating, with even more lives lost, with more of their culture lost. With all of the reforms and revolutions that were made to improve China after the Chinese Civil War, they were unsuccessful and lost much of their heritage. Many wonder if China's Communist Party's actions were for the better of China, though it has shaped China that we know today. But after the Great Leap Forward, the Communist Party should have been more open-minded instead of being stiff-necked and controlling.
And now with the weather with Stevie Poole.
Yo, dude, it's me, Stevie Poole, and my Crocky here. Weather's gonna be great this weekend, kinda. We got 4 degrees, yeah, the huge. Yeah, everybody, check out your Speedos. It's gonna be awesome.
Current news. Today, in China, Chinese Dalian Bond Group paired with AMC Lowe's, creating a $2.3 billion deal. This will substantially help Chinese media and also filmmaking. In addition, China has been working, and especially in the production of a new movie, Iron Man 3. That concludes today's current news. October 1934, Yangtze, China. Chiang Kai-shek, leader of the Kuomintang National Party, and nearly 300,000 KNT soldiers invaded the central base of the First Front Red Army in an attempt to take control of the key leaders, Mao Zedong, Zhu De, and Zhou Enlai. This act of violence has been expected, considering that the tension has grown. On the other hand, the KMT, along with the CCP, were allied for 8 years during the Chinese-Japanese War. Any member of the CCP who remained in the Yangtze province was either killed or disconnected from the movement as a result of the current circumstances. Due to the current events occurring in our neighboring country of China, along with the recent escapades of the Chinese Communist Party, is the fact that Mao is willing to sacrifice his own men for the escape of him and other communist leaders ethically moral. Though we must honor our superiors. But what should one believe with these thought-provoking events? However, I might ask you, is the tens of thousands of lives worth the life of an unsuccessful, controversial leader? At the start of this army under the control of Mao Zedong, there were 86,000 men. Recent studies state that roughly 7,000 members remain. These numbers of these brave men are no longer a part of the First Front Army because they are out of touch with the CCP or they are no longer alive. These are the lives of our fathers, husbands, brothers, and friends. The declining number of the members in the First Front Red Army begs the question, is this leadership guiding the members of the CCP respectable? In contrast, the army of the KMT remains at about 300,000 men strong. How many lives are we willing to sacrifice? How far will we go? Thank you for joining me. My name is Clive, and I am here in Great Britain. And today is May 7th, 1954.
With all this China news going around today, we actually have the author of the New York Times bestseller Red Scarf Girl with us today on the phone. Hello.
Hello?
How has your perception of Mao Zedong changed over time? What has influenced this change?
During the Cultural Revolution, even there were many bad things happened, I didn't really question Chairman Mao. The reason for that was the government said, Chairman Mao gave the right instruction. It was the people who carry out the policy, didn't do a good job. So we didn't have other information except the government propaganda, and I just had to believe it. I woke up at the end of the Cultural Revolution. Chairman Mao died, the Cultural Revolution ended. Then we started to see the articles on newspapers to reveal there was a personal power struggle involved about this Cultural Revolution. And of course, I was shocked. I, thought he didn't do what he told us to do. He always said, put the people's interests first, put the country's interests first. But how could him on earth to manipulate the whole country for the power struggle? And I woke up at that moment, and I never ever blindly trust any leader anymore. I feel he's a human being. He has his limitations. He wasn't a god. He's not a god as we worship him. So it's quite a natural. Any leader could do some good things and could make huge mistakes, which would have a huge consequences to damage the country. That's why I keep telling my audience, make sure the leaders don't abuse the power. We have to rely on the system, not just each individual.
Among our peers, Mao Zedong has a clear evil connotation. Do you think the perception is misplaced?
I would not say he's evil, because he did some great things for China, and he had a good intention. He believed the communism is the way to go instead of a capitalism, and he believed we should, liberate the world for those with capitalism, and they were suffering. After I've been living here for 20-some years, I do see some points which was true. The capitalism is not a perfect society either, and we knew the gap between poor and the rich. I saw how people struggle. Actually, China today is a capitalist country. Although they still call them communism, call them socialism, but the economic system is a capitalism. And ironically, they have new problems, new challenges, which the communism didn't have. So, Chairman Mao back then felt socialism is the way to go, and he did have intention, he did have a vision. However, the practice, the experiment was all failed. Started from 1958, and 100 flower blooming movement, then a great leap forward. There was another failure, and the two culture revolution. He just didn't want to give up. He tried one after another, and which I think if he didn't have this culture revolution, he might be loved a lot more. The problem is that he lost the touch of the people. He liked to hear the good news, not the bad news. When the people say, no, this is not working, and he was very unhappy, and he would correct the mistakes, and he repressed those people. Now that's his fault.
Well, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure having you on the phone today. Now, onto a feature.
Ji Zhang, author of the autobiographical novel Red Scarf Girl, possesses a unique opinion about Chairman Mao and the Communist Party. While some may see her novel as an attempt to show readers the reality of the Cultural Revolution in China during the control of the Communist Party, her actual message comes forth as being much more complex. Ji Zhang's message in her novel is one of leadership and personal struggles. She continuously stresses that Chairman Mao's intention was truthful, pursuing communism as a solution to the imperfections of capitalism. She discusses, however, that the social progress China experienced was off-sailed by corruption in leadership, something that Zhang believes every country and every leader should understand. Ji Zhang's message and perceptions in her novel all speak to the imperfections of society and how Chairman Mao's corrupted attempts to benefit China were actually rooted in good intentions and a persistence to succeed. While Chairman Mao does have a clear evil connotation, it is important to realize that the true fault lies in human nature, that leadership is always rooted in corruption.
That's all for today, folks. Dick Little here for you, bringing you the best news the way you want it.
The weather is gonna be awesome, kinda. We got 40s, Yeah, dudes, it's gonna be great this week. The weather's gonna be awesome, kinda. Yeah, dudes, the weather's gonna be great this weekend. Ish, kinda. No, dude, it's weekend, right? Dudes, it's me and Stevie Poole and Crocky here, talking about the weather's gonna be awesome, kinda. We got... Stop. Yeah, dudes, the weather's gonna be awesome this weekend, kinda. We got weather, we got 40s, in the high 40s.
Go. Oh, crap.
Little. The tie is super short.
Here.
Dude, Gavin.
Everyone calm right now.
Gavin, what do you think? Richard Little have a little tie.
No, wait, a little more. Back. I think we screwed it up.
Do you have to redo it? Or not?
I can't listen to it. Alright, yeah. Give us another sneeze.
Wait, now?
We need a nipple showing.
There will be a nipple showing, okay? There will be. There will be two for the press.
Alright, 3, audio.
I should change my name to Harry Long.
No, Dad. Right there. 3, 2, 1.
Current news. Today, in China, Chinese Dalian Wanda Group paired with AMC Lowe's, creating a $2.3 billion deal. This will substantially help Chinese media and also filmmaking. In addition, China has been working, and especially in the production of a new movie, Iron Man 3. That concludes today's current news. Now, onto a feature.